Hey, what's up, everybody? Before we jump into this episode, I have a question for you. Would you like to join me on a paranormal investigation? And not just a history tour camouflaged as a paranormal investigation, but an authentic paranormal investigation with real clients and real stakes. If so, on October 17th through the 20th, there are 8 spots left to join me at AGH Presents the Flint Creek Ranch, which is an estate located just outside of Dallas, Texas, that is allegedly haunted. It is not just any estate. This is a 3,900-acre estate in which the main house is 6,400 square feet, but it is also allegedly very haunted, in which the owners don't even sleep in there. They actually sleep in their guest house, which is half the size. There are multiple locations that could be the source of the haunting, multiple possibilities as to who or what is causing the haunting, and we will be the first group to ever be granted access to investigate this incredible location. Right now, we have guests that are coming from as far away as Australia, Canada, and all over the United States. So if you're not in Texas, don't feel like this is off your radar, because for most locations in the U.S., it's a short, quick, direct flight to Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. And once you're at the airport, through carpooling with our current guests, we can definitely arrange to help you with transportation to the Flint Creek Ranch. I want to make it very clear that this is a real investigation. It is a 4-day, 3-night event with all kinds of things that are planned. You'll be living in the haunted location the entire time. So although we have paranormal investigation and ghost hunting time set, at any given time, anything can happen. Having said that, my friends, if you are interested in joining us for this truly once-in-a-lifetime event, and you want to claim one or more of the final 8 tickets to this event, please visit www.aghtelevision.com/events, which you can see the address on the screen right now. This is a real investigation with real clients that truly want to know what is going on, and we will be the first ever to investigate this place. So what we accomplish there will be historic, as we will be authoring the paranormal history of this location. And beyond all of that, it's just going to be an incredible time with an amazing group of people, which I hope to see you there. Now, with that being said, let's jump right in to tonight's episode. Hey, what's up, everybody? Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast for episode number 82, which we are going to talk about the 1960 descent to the bottom of Marianas Trench and what occurred during that descent. I actually came across this on one of those YouTube recommended videos again, and it was fascinating. I've always been really fascinated by the Marianas Trench anyways. If you don't know what this is, it is the deepest part of the ocean that is known. It's about 200 miles east of the Philippine Islands and about 400 miles northeast of Australia, Northern Australia. So it's out there in the Pacific, and it's always baffled people because there's been many questions as to whether or not life was possible at the bottom of the Marianas Trench. Now, many years before 1960, the top scientists in the world claimed there's no way that anything could be living at the bottom of Marianas Trench because the pressure from the water would crush anything down there, and they didn't believe there was a food source for things to stay alive, so the prediction was there will be nothing down there, okay? Well, for a long time, the Navy, actually for 7 years, the Navy worked with these 2 explorers, Walsh and Jacques Piccard. Now, they were going to board this vessel called the Treece that was built for massive pressure. And they were going to actually descend to the very bottom of the Marianas Trench, which they did this, okay? At 1:06 p.m. on January 23rd in 1960, they took that thing all the way to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, which in total, they went down 11,521 meters, or 37,799 feet. Now, despite the fact that they prepared for 7 years for this, when they got to the bottom, after only spending 20 minutes there, in layman's terms, they said, "Get us the fuck out of here, pull us up." Now, they were interviewed later as to what occurred during the trip. What did you see? They wanted to know, did you see fish? Did you see life? Did you see sharks? What did you see? Well, the public knew at that time what they reported as far as the marine life. They did claim to see fish. They claimed to see different like crustaceans and stuff down there, which people were blown away by. They're like, oh my God, there's life down there? That's impossible. But it was not impossible. In fact, the ocean floor of the Marianas Trench is teeming with life. But what the public didn't know until much, much later is what Piccard documented in his journal, which was that there were 3 specific events that scared the living shit out of Piccard and Walsh. What were those events? When they first started going down, about a quarter of the way on their journey, the vessel started sounding like it was going to crack, which scared them to death. They actually stopped. They stopped the descent and they waited to see, is the vessel breaking apart, or are these just the sounds that it's making from the pressure? After chilling for about 30 minutes, they said, okay, these are just the sounds that the vessel makes. Everything that we have, all of our gauges, everything says we're okay. They got about halfway down, and all of a sudden their radar went nuts. They had a sonar radar that was basically sweeping around to see if there was any large fish or anything like that that would go by them. Well, they recorded something over 60 feet that was swimming around them. They did not get visuals on it, but the sonar was picking it up. Something over 60 feet long was swimming around the vessel. Now, when they got 3/4 of the way down, something blew their mind, something that they did see. They looked out the window of the vessel, and they saw a massive disc, straight out of science fiction films, like UFO disc, that basically moved back and forth as they watched it, and it descended with them until right before it got to the ground, until right before it got to the bottom, in which it disappeared into the darkness of the ocean. Now, they were sure of this. They described the way it looked, its color, its length, its movement. This is something they watched for a very long time. By Piccard's estimation, they watched this thing for over 40 minutes. So when they got to the bottom, they were terrified. They were thinking, oh my God, we've got fish or something out here that's 60 feet long that's swimming around. And then we just saw a UFO, a disc. A flying UFO disc that you would see in the sky, in the water, that's basically checking out what they're doing. So after hitting the bottom of Marianas Trench, they were obviously like, hey, cool, yeah, we made it. Let's get out of here. We don't know what this is. They stayed as long as their nerves could handle before they radioed up and they said, get us out of here now. Now, when they got to the top, they told their crew about all of this, in which the doctor on board. Now, when they got to the top, they told the entire crew about all of this, in which the doctor on board said, oh, you must have been suffering some kind of hallucination from, either the oxygen or nitrogen being off in the ship. But there was never any proof of that. None whatsoever, in which both Walsh and Jacques Piccard claimed that they did not hallucinate anything, that they were absolutely sure of what they saw. Now, this story fascinated me because USOs have been reported forever. And if you don't know what a USO is, it's an unidentified submerged object. Basically, UFOs that come not from the sky, but from the ocean. In fact, I live right next to a body of water in which one of the greatest USO incidents that's ever taken place took place in 1992. I actually made a documentary on it called 1992, the USO incident. What happened in 1992? In the channel between myself, right where I live right now, and Catalina Island, over 300 objects appeared out of the water and flew over the Santa Monica Mountains. Supposedly there were over 10,000 witnesses to it. Phone calls came in to police stations and airports, the Army. Like, nobody knew what was going on, but everyone saw it, and it appeared on radar. And as soon as these USOs got over the mountains, like a bullet shot out of a gun, they were gone. But this was seen by over 10,000 people. Over 10,000 witnesses. Which, doesn't that beg to question, why are we not spending more on ocean exploration than we are on space exploration? Especially the Marianas Trench, and absolutely this channel right here, because, you know, the Tic Tac UFO incident that was released in one of Tom DeLonge's 3 videos, the Tic Tac UFO. You know where that happened? Catalina Channel, right here. Right here. The same place that over 300 unidentified submerged objects appeared over the ocean, out of the water, and flew over the Santa Monica Mountains. So think of the money that we're putting into space exploration right now comparatively to what we're putting into ocean exploration, and they're not even comparable. Right now, there's only 2 companies that are even planning on going back to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. There's only 2 that are even planning it right now. And by the way, after looking at the data that Piccard and Walsh recorded, a bunch of scientists actually concluded that the 60-foot object that was swimming around them, their best guess is that it was a megalodon. A megalodon is a 60-foot shark that supposedly went extinct some 3 million years ago. Some say 6 million years ago, but it's supposed to be extinct. But they got the radar data, and they concluded that their best guess is that a fucking megalodon was swimming around the traced ship that was going down. Now, when it came to the disc that they saw, there was no data on it. For some reason, the sonar did not pick the disc up, but they were very, very sure of what they saw. They were very sure of it. And like a lot of these things, of course, they didn't release that information to the press. They released the fact that they saw fish, that they saw some crustaceans, you know, which is interesting. It's like, great, that's cool. But what's a little more interesting is the UFO and the megalodon that were recorded when they were going down there. Now, since then, there's been a couple other, people that have gone down there. Most notably, James Cameron, of course, took his own private enterprise and went all the way to the bottom, which James Cameron actually operated the vessel. He himself went to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. Again, he didn't spend a lot of time down there, and he did discover a lot of species and all kinds of stuff. But what we know now is that it's teeming with life. All of it's stuff that scientists don't understand. They don't understand how any of these creatures are living. Almost everything down there is bioluminescent, which means it creates its own light. It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing what's going on down there. And it just tells us that we have no idea what's in the ocean. And as of right now, less than 5% of it, we've only explored 5% of it. So 95% of the ocean we have not explored. We have not explored it. And the reason I bring this up again, because, guys, I'm still stuck on this idea that, when it comes to extraterrestrial life, everyone says that this, space is too big for ETs basically to find us. In which I go back to the whole idea, not if they were the ones that put us here. Now, if you look over the history of the world, dating back to 12,800 years ago in the Younger Dryas, which was a cataclysmic event that changed the world, the oceans have covered different parts of the world at different times for long periods of time, thousands and thousands of years. A cataclysmic event happens, an ice age occurs, there's a shift of, the oceans and their depths, and that's why there's over 400 cities now that have been found underwater. Think of what we don't know. And for what it's worth, with all of the planets and moons in our solar system, scientists believe that the moon Europa, it's one of Jupiter's moons, they believe that actually has the best chance of life throughout the entire galaxy because Europa is covered in ice completely, and they believe that there is an ocean, a massive ocean, which they believe that has the highest likelihood of life being in it. And that's always what they look for on other planets, right? Is there water? Is there water? Right? Because you need water, supposedly, to create life. That's where life comes from. So why on our planet, in which 3/4 of our planet is covered in water, if that's where life began, why have we only investigated 5% of it? And I bet you that's generous. I mean, I have a hard time believing that we've even investigated 5% of what is out there. And how do you investigate 5% of an ocean? I mean, shit can swim into it, So there's only, such a small percentage of it. And I'm so into these, pirate legend and lore and like the early explorers, and seeing these massive creatures and the tails of the kraken. And, like I said, we learned that the giant squid is real. There's just so much out in the ocean. So why couldn't there be some form of extraterrestrial life in which its environment is water? I mean, that's something they always say when other planets, they say, well, life could never be sustained there. Life could never happen there. Well, life supposedly cannot exist at the bottom of the Marianas Trench, but it does. Because this, whatever it is down there, those things that live down there, the fish that live down there, the crustaceans that live down there, that's their natural environment. That's their environment. So that life exists there. So why could, there not be some form of extraterrestrial life that's ancient that comes from the water? I mean, Piccard, these guys saw this. They saw this disc that was shaped exactly like a UFO, and they were very adamant about the fact that they were not hallucinating. This thing knew that they were there. It was tracking them. It was moving in and out. They saw this with their own eyes. A really interesting story that you guys might want to look into as well. Right off the coast of Malibu. And I'm not sure I bought into this, but the photos are really interesting. Hardcore UFO and USO buffs believe that there is an underwater base. Some say it's military. Some say that it is an alien underwater base, and that is why, we have all these USO sightings in the Catalina Channel. But you can Google and read all about this. A lot of people have done all kinds of research. They've recorded weird sounds underneath there, right off the coast of Point Dume, where Laura taught school at. Literally that coastline, they've recorded all kinds of sounds, and there's a hum that they don't know where it's coming from. In fact, if you look at the screen right now, this is basically a photo, a 3D mapping photo that kind of shows what they're calling this base. And it does look very odd. It looks like there's columns. It looks like there's columns holding up this roof. Now, whether this is real or not, I don't know. I'm not going to say it is. I've certainly not done the research to confirm it or not. But UFOs have been seen coming out of the ocean around the world. This has been happening for as long as UFOs have been sighted. They have been seen coming out of the ocean. And what was really interesting is when the Aguadilla UFO footage came out, which if you look on the screen right now, you'll see that footage. At the very end of this clip, this UFO, whatever this is, it dips into the ocean, in which the water does not have any effect on it. It rips through the ocean current like it's air. And that's one of the most fascinating things about this piece of footage. And this happened obviously off the coast of Puerto Rico. So, I know a lot of people make the argument, well, things just can't move through the water very well, and they can't, that it's a whole different environment. Well, we don't know the technology. If you look at the Aguadilla footage, it appears as though water has no effect on whatever this technology is. We have no idea. And clearly, we just don't know what's possible. Like, the Marianas Trench is such a good example of that. Because, they said there will be no life down there. There will be no life down there. And there is a massive amount of life down there. And they found all these crustaceans that had gigantism, where they grow at really large sizes. The same species, topside grows to massive sizes below, way at the bottom of the trench. But the bioluminescence, and that's what's crazy, is that so many of these fish are just creating their own light. Which just shows that process of evolution. What happens to different species in the absence of light? Well, nature has an amazing ability, man. It's almost like it's magical. What happens when there's no light? Species start to emanate it themselves, which is just fucking mind-blowing. And if these things don't look alien, I mean, look at the screen right now. I mean, if that's not alien life, what is? I mean, from what we know, life should not be able to exist at the bottom of the Marianas Trench. But here it is. Here it is. I hope that as we continue to push forward in the space race to Mars and to explore the galaxy, which I think is incredibly important, man, I hope there's another Elon Musk out there that has the same type of passion for the ocean. Because I think under those hidden regions lies the answers to a lot of the questions that we have about who we are, where we came from, and what our original role on this planet was meant to be. Thank you for listening to episode number 82 of the In a Crowded Room podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back tomorrow with more. All the best.